Good evening, everybody. How are we all doing? And welcome back to Premier League Racing. We are here for round 7, and we are in beautiful Singapore. I absolutely love this race. If you don't know, Singapore is definitely up there as one of my favourites. It's just such a good race, isn't it? And we hopefully should be in for such a good race this time round. We've had some amazing races around Singapore in Premier League racing before, and Bear Racing League in previous seasons. But let's quickly check the standings before we head into qualifying, which has just as this second started. Jay Thompson currently leads after the Belgium Grand Prix on 86 points, with Danny Van Rutten just 6 points behind on 80. Kresnos on 76, and a name that I cannot pronounce on 70. Mr. Cookie all the way down on 68, and he's got some good fighting both above and below him, because F1 2019 is only on 64. So that top fight is outrageously close, can I say. So top 3 within 10 points of each other, top 5 within 20 points of each other, which is not even a race win. Apologies for the low attendance again, especially in the last month of the game. Yeah, yo, what's up? Hello, the ceiling. Rain in the race around Singapore. Okay, lovely. Let's get that interesting again. I remember Cookie pulling off an absolute masterclass of strategy before tossing it away, if I remember correctly, some number of months ago. I think it might have even been F1 2022. I think it probably was. It might have been F1 2021, you know. Either way, this was some time ago. But that was a wet race, and hopefully we could hope for some that kind of style of racing again. You know, some crazy strategies, some interesting choices by some drivers, and hopefully not too many wild actions. Anyway, we should probably check the Tier 1 standings, where Ferrari are currently sat at the top of the tables on 121 points. Alpine in P2 on 118, who are fighting very closely as well, with Red Bull Racing on 112, who are fighting very closely with two teams side by side on 110, Mercedes and Alfa Romeo. Aston Martin just 4 points below it and joint with Williams on 106. And then it is a bit of a drop to AlphaTauri, McLaren, and Haas 89, 81, and 78 respectively. But isn't that so incredibly close? Less than 20 points separate the top 7 in the team standings. I mean, Jesus, that is outrageously close. Unfortunately, we're not going to be having everybody here today fighting out for that championship battle. We have 13 with us today, which isn't it's not the best I've ever seen, I'm going to be honest. But hopefully, you know, it's enough to at least get some half decent racing in, as LX here is just taking a rather interesting route around the track. I think it's also more commonly known as the wrong way. Let's just throw up our lap data and our full track map so we can see what is going on. F1 2019 is currently just finishing Sector 1, whereas Orion is running through Sector 2, but he is out. So a watch on board with F1. Now, you've just gone and put in a purple Sector 1, which makes total sense considering the fact that I think he's the only person to have completed a Sector 1. Yes, he would have been, because Koski has only just started his lap. So this is our baseline time today. You know, you gotta have the baseline. You gotta see what the very starting pace is, and then it does tend to be the case that it gets lost very, very quickly. But I think having that time on the board early in qualifying really does set you. It doesn't set you up, but it gives you a bit of confidence for your second and perhaps third if you want to go for all 3. It just gives you a bit more of an opportunity that, you know, okay, it may not be the best lap, but it means I'm not last. 130.274, first time down today. We'll carry on with Koski, because he is the next man through, if I'm correct in saying. And I'm currently stuck to the T-cam. No matter how many times I press camera type, I'm stuck on his T-cam. So, oh no, aha, we've broken free, thank Christ. Yes. Okay. So it was just locking us to TCAM there. Bueller's joined, and Koski has gone and put in a purple sector 2 time. So looking faster than F1 2019 as of right now. We'll see how his sector 3 time lines up. He is obviously very. I think all of us are waiting for F1 24 now. Yeah, I think most people are. Most people are quite excited. Actually, quite a lot of people are rather worried. 130.3, not quite faster than F1 2019. In fact, actually, very, very close. Got a few more drivers just coming across the line. The Psycho's gone fastest. Kresnos going much, much faster. 128.83, our fastest time so far. JR Paul not quite able to top the time, but he's certainly not that far off. Cadet running through sector 3 at the moment. We'll see how he gets on. He's about to come through the last couple of corners. But yeah, as I was saying, a lot of people I think are kind of sort of waiting now for F1 24. 129.3 puts Cadet at P3 at the moment. Basically slap bang in between JR Paul and the Psycho. Yeah, so yeah, as I was saying, it's definitely getting a little more interesting. You know, you've got some people that are, you know, beginning to get into F1 24 mindset and, you know, beginning to bin off the last couple of races. It's always the case. It's a shame, but it's just the way it is. Our Henson putting himself P4 there, but yeah, it's just the way the dice rolls at the end. There's not much we can do about it, but yeah, only issue is I haven't heard much what's the right word? Positives about F1 24 so far. I was speaking to Mr. Cookie actually last night, the person we're just watching as of right now, who I think has invalidated at the final corner because that lap that he just took was invalidated, and now this lap's invalidated. So unless he cut the corner at turn 1, I'm not too sure. Which is actually a total possibility. He was saying that things like steering assist was like locked on. Even if you switched off, it was still locked being on. Isn't great. Hopefully that's just a bug that they can iron out pretty quickly. Otherwise, I think if that's the case, they're not going to get many sales. Right, so I think most people so far are on are just coming in, getting themselves sorted to head back out again. We're currently on board with Orion. Sorry, watching Orion, he's going to get started on his lap. We've got 10 minutes of qualifying left to go. Many people saying the tracks are better. Okay, so that's at least a decent improvement. I don't know, have they gone back and have they actually, do they laser scan the tracks? I'm not too sure. I'd like to think that they're all laser scanned. But I genuinely don't know. Probably I mean, some of the tracks were quite outdated. I remember, you know, what's it? The runoff at Monza just not being like, you can't do it. The cars don't have a good enough turning circle to do the runoff. I always found that quite funny. But yeah, I think some track updates are well needed. Yeah, it's just a couple of little things here and there, and you're just like, yeah, no, that just doesn't replicate what it's like in the real world at all. Buell has left the session. Not ideal. He is out as well. Well, he's greyed out, but he hasn't actually got something next to him saying DNF. But I don't know whether it does. I mean, I do so many qualifyings, and they change some corners and so on, and the game looks much better. Yeah, I mean, I've got to say, from the colours too, yeah, from my perspective, the game doesn't actually look that bad graphically, especially the cars. I was actually saying this yesterday on stream. We were at Belgium, and I mean, it was a bit overcast, but I was just looking at the Alpine, and the reflections in the blue were really, really, I mean, I've got ray tracing on, so that's why. But it looks really, really nice, and I was like, oh wow, okay. I haven't actually, you know what? I haven't given this game the respect it deserves, because that's actually quite nice. So if that's an improvement, then that's, you know, right, obviously, at the end of the day, you know, games like Richard Burns Rally is still like the top rallying game, and that's from what, 2003 or something. It's quite some years old at the very minimum. And it just kind of proves that in racing games in particular, no one particularly cares about about graphics, but to have nice graphics. They leaked a bit of gameplay. Did you see it? No, I haven't really been keeping up, to be honest. I barely play the F123 game. I just sort of come on and commentate it, so I haven't been quite as excited this time round as I was for F123. I was much more excited for F122 as well, to be fair. It's just slowly been going downhill. Right, who have we got on a flyer? I believe F1 is on a flyer at the moment. So a 128.109 to beat so far. Few drivers just coming across the line. Just going to check to see if any of them match up. No, Koski's on out. Cassette's on out. Yeah, so I'm going to F1. And he's not looking very good for F1. It's 1.7 seconds slower than his fastest time, which currently puts him 3 seconds off the pace. So I think he has just a slight bit of work to do in this third sector, or giving the sector up. Oh no, he's diving into the pit line. I was about to say he's going to the line. I was like, why would you do that? Jared Paul has improved on his time, but it's not going to be by an awful lot. It's going to get him above Kresnos, but still nowhere near Orion, sitting at the top. Currently, 0.6 of a second faster than anybody else. I was saying, words. Oh, Kresnos just come across the line and just topped Jared Paul. Half a second now, the gap between Kresnos and Orion. Yeah, so, oh, sorry, this is what I've just remembered what I was going to say now. Last night in BRL, Mr. Cookie picked pole by what, half a second, right? He was like the last man to come across the line, and I was really amazed by that. Orion's just casually doing it at the moment. Though Mr. Cookie has actually gone and put a time on the board, finally. And he's put himself P2, but he is still 4/10 off of Orion, though he is a 10th faster than Kresnos. Ballant there just goes P5, putting himself just shy of a second behind the pace. Cassette, next man through. He is currently 4/10 faster than his previous time through Sector 2 and Sector 2 alone. That's going to push him to within 0.8. That's going to push him to P5. Unless there's any significant improvements, then it could possibly be P4 for the Mercedes driver. It's going to be P5. It was a bit of an improvement through Sector 3, but not enough to gain an extra position. Not going to lie, the Verstappen Red Bull's winning streak has something to do with it. It was so much better to see the teams fighting for wins. F1 was much more fun to watch / play. Honestly, I'm going to agree with you there. I genuinely think real-world Formula 1 circumstances have a huge effect on the game itself. Like, yeah, because obviously Red Bull's been absolutely dominant, you know. You hop in, it's kind of difficult to explain, but like, see, I'm a bit of a Williams fan. I do quite like Williams. So, I've always, you know, if Williams were, you know, Williams are having a bit of a rough patch this season again. But like back in 2019, when F1 2019 was like my game, I didn't play a thing else. Because Williams had done so horribly, you know, you wanted to pull them out from the pits. And because obviously Mercedes were a bit dominant at the time, and obviously COVID had a huge factor to do with it as well. So I guess they kind of got lucky at that point. But obviously F1 2021, huge game, because of the fight. Obviously it was a bit mediocre in some senses. There was some positives, there were some negatives to it. But it was a significantly bigger game. I feel like the F1 2023 game, this game, F1 23, nowhere near as big as like F1 2019. F1 2019, 2020, biggest games they've made. 2021, slightly smaller. 2022, smaller still. 2023, smaller still. I can't see 2024 doing quite as well, which is weird because there's more and more F1 fans every single season. I just feel like the hype around it isn't quite there like it was even in 2020. 2020, the hype in F1 was outrageous, and Mercedes was still on a winning spree. You know, Verstappen get a win here and there, but you know, they didn't actually bring a car that could properly contend for the title. They could contend for a win, but not really for the title. Ferrari was just a dumpster fire that season. Right. Okay, we have got everybody in the pits. We've got 2 people out on the track, getting themselves ready to go for their final laps today. Yeah, F1 in 2018, 2020, yeah. I would say F1 2019 was probably the biggest game, because if you remember, and this is going to take you back a bit, the lockdown Grand Prix, like the Australian lockdown Grand Prix on F1 2019 with Norris, Russell, Charles, who else raced? Was it Grosjean that also raced? If I remember correctly. There was a couple, and like, you know, you threw like Jimmy Broadbent and Arava in the mixer, and all of a sudden you had like the biggest event the world has ever seen so far. Who hosted that? Was it Koche? I can't remember. Right, okay. We'll forget talking about that just for now, because we are now getting on to the final laps today. We have 1 minute and 26 seconds remaining. And we are currently on board with our pole sitter. You know what? It's tidy, isn't it? It's very tidy. Can't see any major mistakes that the AlphaTauri driver has made. I mean, he has got quite a buffer, half a second. So even if he does screw up a little bit here and there, it's going to come to the end of sector 2 now. And it is improvements just by about 0.2 of a second. I think we could probably be watching today's pole time. The AlphaTauri is looking very much on course to take an increased gap in his provisional pole time as he comes through the final corners, and across the line he goes for a 1:27.8. That is outrageous. Someone help this man, because that's unbelievable time. Right, so let's watch our Henson for a moment. You know, our Henson could really bump himself up here. He got fastest sector 2. Can he get himself higher up? He can. P5 for the Williams driver. Aston Martin of JR pull through next. Can he close the gap to Kresnos? Can he get past? Indeed he can, but only just. Who's next through? Haas of LX. Let's see how he gets on. He moves up 1. P7. Koski through next. Goes P9. And a cadet through next, I believe. Yes, but still a while to go. I think Balin after that, he's invalidated. F2 2019 is invalidated, and so has Blackbone. So none of those will set times. Orion is on another flyer. No, he's not. He's on 128 already. was about to say, he's probably going for it. But nope, letting through JR Paul, who is an AI. Oh no, he's not JR Paul. It's F1 2019, who is an AI, who won't make it, obviously, to the line. So that is F1 2019 done. That is everybody done as Orion comes into the pit lane and retires from an unbelievable pole position. I mean, that is an unbelievable 127.843 puts Orion on pole by 0.677 seconds. That is an outrageous gap. Top 5 within a second, because Mr. Cookie lines up on the front row with him. JR Paul in P3 and Kresnos P4, Henson P5 and Katet P6. Alex in P7 and Balance P8, Koski P9 and F1 2019 in P10, Blackbone P11, the Psycho P12, Jay Thompson P13 and Buell in P14. It's going to be one hell of a ride. Join us in just a moment's time. Alrighty, let's get going. Ready for the Singapore Grand Prix, and we are indeed underway. Orion gets off to a pretty decent start in the wild wake. Whoa! Two cars going across there almost immediately. That's Katet and LX. And everybody is caught up in a hellfire, and we got an immediate safety car, I imagine, because of the actions that took place in the very early moments of that race. It is an intermediate start, but all hell has broken loose, I've got to say. Mr. Cookie, though, has managed to get himself into the lead of the race. Orion in P2, so Mr. Cookie must have just made that move just prior to the safety car coming out. They're going to have to go all the way around before they catch the safety car. And until we can get going again. That was quite the wild start to the race. We had all of, a corner, maybe 2 of racing. And now we're going to start behind the safety car for 3 laps. So, if I'm being totally honest, there's really not a lot for me to say. I'll see you back in 2 laps time. Okay. We are going again. Safety car after 12 oh, 2, not 12. Safety car after 2 seconds. That has got to be. I don't think it's got to be. I think it is a record. I think it is a record. Definitely for PRL. Maybe for all time. I mean, the accident happened immediately. So it is totally possible. Sorry, I am eating a biscuit. But we are finally underway. To actually start some racing here with PRL for the Singapore Grand Prix. And Mr. Cookie holds the lead into turn 1. How long is it going to last for, though? Because as we know, Orion is outrageously fast. Builder ghosted, hence losing all the positions. Is he ghosted just because he was slow? No, he's ghosted because he's AI. Right, so ignore those overtakes. I think Orion's going to try and go for a move here. Moves to the inside. Goes for the dive. Can he make it work? Mr. Cookie's going to hold it round the outside. He'll have the inside next time round. It's 3 wide on the other, just behind. And I think Mr. Cookie might lose it out of him. Might not quite have the grip. I think the AlphaTauri certainly looked faster out the exit of the corner and does get himself into place through the left-hander there. Orion getting himself back into the lead of this race fairly early on lap 4. He retakes the position. And just behind are Henson and Kresnos. Really going at it side by side. Kresnos having to just slightly cut the corner there because that corner is just not wide enough to fit 2 people. And I think the Red Bull's going to try and go for a move down the inside. I think just backs out of it at the final second. And that was a wise idea because that was just pandemonium, if I'm being totally honest. That was a terrible idea. Alpine now under a fair bit of threat from the AlphaTauri, but not really. I think the AlphaTauri has just broke far too late there and has gotten himself into a bit of trouble with Ballant because I think he's going to be able to scoop it round the outside and get the move done. And I think LX wants a piece of the pie as well, but doesn't quite make it work. I apparently have as many frames as I do water bottles right now, which is 3. What's happening just down the back here? Alpine, Jay Thompson just getting past everyone 2019 there into turn 1, having gone side by side with the Ferrari, just getting Larry on exit, trying to put the power down, but struggling to do so for a large amount and just pushes it wide slightly. I'd be amazed if he hasn't picked up just a tiny little bit of damage there. It might even just be a lime wing, but it's going to be some sort of wing from clipping that wall. That wall is a nasty wall. Blackbone does have the outside line, can possibly scoop it with a bit of extra speed. The Ferrari really maximising the use of the track, and I think the AlphaTauri was at fault for going wide there. I don't really think that was much of the Ferrari's fault. The AlphaTauri just broke far too late, and I think he's going to just try the same move as he did prior, just to defend the place from the Haas. Does make it work, and the Haas now under pressure from Catet from behind. Does he try and go for a move? Yes, he does. Pushes the Haas slightly wide, and just clips the wall with his wheel, and really struggling to hold on to the car. Catet loses out on quite a massive amount of time there through that section, and I think he might be losing a bit more because if he did clip his wing there, that is catastrophic for him. I mean, around a wet Singapore, having a bit of a late break there from the AlphaTauri, and I think that is going to open the door for the Haas to get through. Indeed it does. So Blackbone up to LX up to P10, Blackbone down to P11. Kresnos as well, just towards the front, really holding onto the back of JR Paul here, trying his absolute hardest. F1 2019 there, just getting through. Koski into the pit lane, interestingly enough, and so is Blackbone. So Blackbone electing to put on a fresh set of tyres, but I imagine it's probably for wing changes. Indeed it is. One wing comes off. Will the other wing be coming off? No, it's not. Instead, hard tyres are going on. Has Koski gone for the same move? Yes, he has. Both of them opting for dry tyres now. I mean, rain is still on the track, but it isn't raining anymore. So I do understand their logic. Is the track dry enough though? I'm not too sure. It's actually looking pretty dry. There's definitely still some wet patches, as Koski just learned as he tried to put the barrel down and got the scare of his life. He's going to be nice and calm coming out of corners this time around. Yep, sticking in fifth. A fair play. Psycho definitely taking a slightly more aggressive style and nearly gets a tank slapper for it. So those two boys learning the hard way that the track is still slippy. But I think it's really the only way to learn. You know, if you don't push it, you're never going to get. You're never going to find out. So Kresnos still on the back of JR Paul. And people are indeed starting to come into the pit lane and join those two on dry tyres. Mr. Cookie, JR Paul and Orion all coming in, as well as our Henson and F1. LX opts to as well. So does Cadet. Ballant has been trying to, but he's ended up in the wall somehow. Blackbone obviously is already on those dry tyres. Now, how much of an advantage? Ballant picks a disqualification. Ladies and gentlemen, Ballant has been disqualified for blocking the pit lane entry. So his accident there, I think, has caused a disqualification, I'm afraid, for the Ferrari driver, who's going to park it up. Well, this is the AI, may I say, but the AI is going to park the car there and say that that is it. No safety car to come of it. He is tucked away. He's not really in a position to cause absolute mayhem or madness. Kresnos and Jay Thompson still looking all right on those on the wet tires. Sorry, they don't look like they're exactly slow, if that makes sense. I think they'll probably get away with this lap, but then opt to come in at the end of this lap. I can't see them staying out for much longer. You're starting to see some dry lines coming off of the tires of Kresnos. But pretty much everybody else opts to stick. Yeah, everyone's on slicks. Even Buell, who's not racing, has come in for slicks. So I think that tells you all you need to know about the decision to switch from the intermediates to the slick tyres, and both of them do so as Jay Thompson gets nervously close to the back of the Red Bull there, heading into the pit lane. But you never know. A slight complication in in Kresnos's pit stop could see him come out behind, but in fact it hasn't. Jay Thompson is indeed going to stay behind as they come out of the pit lane. There goes past Orion and Mr. Cookie, and I think they're going to slot out maybe just in front of the Aston Martin. I'm not too sure yet. And coming out very close to the Aston Martin. Aston Martin, I think, is going to get round. And with the help of warmer tyres, having done a lap on them, he is going to be able to get himself into place, as Kresnos as well. He's just testing the waters on the tyres. So we should probably check to see what tyres people have stuck on. Because it's different tyres for different drivers. Most people opting for mediums, with a couple opting for the hards. Blackbone are Henson, Kresnos and Orion. Being the people that have decided that hards is the way to go. And Jay Thompson there just getting a little bit rear happy through that corner. Yeah, so Orion, our current race leader and pole sitter, has decided to go for that, what seems to be alternate strategy. As most people have decided for the medium tyre. I don't know. Is Orion trying? Now, this is a question here. Is Orion trying to go for a no stop from here on out? Stick the hards on and run it to the end. Is it plausible? Probably not. I mean, that's a lot of laps to do, isn't it? 20 odd laps on sort of what, 24 odd laps. Mr. Cookie goes fastest, 137.6. I mean, even. I mean, what would be the strategy here? Would you I don't know, to the people that are watching this that aren't actually racing, because I know quite a few people just have this on in the background whilst they race to see. I'm like their news source as to what is going on track, so they really hate it when I waffle. But to anybody that isn't racing, that is watching, if you could tell me what the Singapore dry strat usually is it hard to mediums? Is it mediums to hards? Can you sneak a set of softs in there? Is a two-stop viable around this track? Because I know for the most part, two stops aren't that viable. On 50% races, they're definitely not viable at all. On 25% races, but I don't know. Singapore is a bit of a tight and twisty one. It's a bit of an exception to the rule. So it could quite possibly be the case that it is a possible two-stopper. But yeah, as I say, I have absolutely no idea. So any help would be vastly appreciated. And yes, very, very welcome. Right. What do we have to chat about? To be fair, I'm going to continue watching this. The fight for the lead is currently very, very close. Mr. Cookie just behind Orion, pretty much staying within half a second. Though I say that, Mr. Cookie, has just gone and got fastest lap. Oh no, sorry, Orion's gone and just got fastest lap, but just beaten there by Jay Thompson. And Mr. Cookie's picked up a 3-second time penalty for multiple warnings, which is very uncookie-like, may I say, as well. We're only a third of the way into this race, and he's already picked up 3 seconds. I mean, I'm no statist. What's their name? Maths. If you like maths, you're a mathematician. If you like stats, statistician. Yeah, I'm gonna say a statistician. Yeah, I'm no statistician, but that does mean he's gonna wind up with 9 seconds of time penalties, and that is quite catastrophic. As far as penalties go, you don't want 9 seconds worth. And at the moment, he doesn't seem to be struggling to keep up with Orion, though he has lost a couple of tenths of a second through sector 2. But he does seem to be struggling with getting into a position to make a move. Like, he hasn't gained a lot down that straight, and he is now, what, 4 tenths back? Pretty comfortably most of the time. You know, before he was sort of within 2-3 tenths for the most part. Now it's sort of more like 4-5 tenths. Now, even so, 6 tenths of a second for a moment there, because Orion's just gone and puts in the fastest lap of the Grand Prix, 1:33.4. Beaten once again by Jay Thompson, a 1:33.2. But Orion knows that right now what he's doing is working, because he is pulling away from Mr. Cookie. Very slow and grueling process, but he is pulling away from Cookie. So I was about to say we'll join this back in just a moment's time, but I think Mr. Cookie's actually going to go for a move here. Just as I say that Orion's doing very well, commentator's curse strikes once again. Mr. Cookie slots himself through, and so does Jay Thompson, who secures a 3rd place. Pretty much identical times to each other, so unfortunately we couldn't watch both. We kind of had to pick and choose. Orion falling off the back of Mr. Cookie pretty quickly here. 6 tenths of a second. He's going to have to work to try and catch up a little bit. Mr. Cookie possibly was being held back by the AlphaTauri a little bit, and this gives him a good opportunity to try and, you know, do a little something, try and get away a bit. JR Paul having a very poor corner there. That's going to lose him a lot of time. Yeah, 3 tenths of a second. When you have to turn in and say, oh, actually, no, I've done the wrong thing, and have to turn back in again. Yeah, no, that's not what you want. That's bad. I think it's pretty clear that Mr. Cookie was being held up by Orion a little bit, because he's now 8 tenths or clear of the AlphaTauri driver, and he's progressing faster and faster still. Jay Thompson will be hunting down the AlphaTauri as well, because Jay Thompson was putting in consistent fastest laps the last couple of laps. Obviously, he's not going to have the help of DRS this time round. Nor is Mr. Cookie, but Orion will do, and he was pumping out some very good and very respectable times of 1:33.45. Obviously now Blackbone is the fastest at 1:32.5, but either way, it's semi-respectable. Mr. Cookie 1:32.7, All of a sudden, Orion's time not looking very good. Those hard tyres are looking just they do look like they're struggling. Whoa, Psycho out of the Grand Prix. Oh, it's in the pit lane, so no safety cars to worry about, and he has indeed left the session. Not sure why he's opted to leave the Grand Prix, but he has, which leaves us just 12 drivers remaining, because I know I said 13 right at the beginning, but we did have the addition of one more. I don't actually know which person joined us what point. We have got a McLaren going slowly, apparently. Oh, that is the Psycho, who has... It's a shame. He's retired in the pit lane. He's done the right thing, and his car's come back out on track and has just been overtaken by Blackbone, I believe, who's picked up a 3-second time penalty. And the Psycho has indeed stopped and does get cleared away nicely. So, whoa, hello. When did that change rounds? I look 1 second, Mr. Cookie's... Oh, Mr. Cookie let him through. Okay, that's interesting. Did Mr. Cookie let him through in the hopes that he would regain it down this DRS straight? I'm not too sure. Obviously, it hasn't worked. Jay Thompson is still catching. Very interesting tactics from Cookie. Not too sure what he's planning on at the moment. But it'll be certainly very interesting to see what master plan he has up his sleeve. Because, yeah, right now I'm not seeing it. As he is, I mean, don't get me wrong, he's sticking to the back of the AlphaTauri pretty nicely. But obviously this is such a tight and twisty track. You are right on the edge the entire race. Which is why it's, you know, other than the fact that it is outrageously hot, this race, you know, that is one of the major factors as to why this race is so grueling. The heat and the general difficulty of the race itself. These two drivers, Catet and that's F1, isn't it? And I think Catet's going to get through here. We got a yellow flag in sector 3. That's a Haas stopped on track. That's Buell. No, it's not. It is LX driving rather slowly. He's gotten himself back up to racing speed. Not sure what happened. As F1 2019 has managed to keep himself in front. Don't ask me how he's managed to do that, but he has managed to do it. Kresnos as well, just up the road and fighting the other Aston Martin, Mr. Sorry there, Mr. JR Paul is under quite the threat right now. The Red Bull is staying right up his gearbox and he's putting on quite a threatening performance. Obviously, a lot of people think, oh yeah, you're coming out of this a hairpin, you can get a good run into the right-hander. It's not really that long of a straight. This is the only downside with Singapore. There isn't many straights, and with these Formula 1 cars, you need straights to try and overtake. Like, you desperately need that DRS. That drag reduction system is, like, necessary to make overtakes nowadays. It's a shame, but that's just the way it is. Personally, I'd like to see, you know, SL, LX. What about LX? Anyway, Kresnos is staying behind it. Interesting enough, I definitely think had he gotten a slightly better run out of the final corner, definitely an opportunity there. I think Kresnos is well aware of the fact that a move can be made and can be made soon. Obviously, Kresnos as well is on a hard set of tyres and a lap younger. I'm just going to have to stop here because Jay Thompson has managed to get past Mr. Cookie and Kresnos has managed to get past JR Paul. So somehow, and don't ask me how I've managed this, I've missed both of those overtakes. because my TV direction is nearly as good as my commentary. F1 2019, they're just slightly barging his way through past Cadet, but no major incident. I wouldn't exactly be dishing out penalties by the mountain for it. So with Mr. Cookie now behind Jay Thompson, that fight is over nearly as quick as it started. Mr. Cookie's really struggling to keep pace with Orion and Jay Thompson. Krasnos getting past, JR Paul's being left for dust a little bit. Cadet, though, is staying with F1 2019. So I think we know where our battles and where our views shall lie. Who do I think's got it in? I mean, it was a bit of a pushy, shovey move from F1 2019, but we know that he is fairly good at defending. He can get the elbows out, but Cadet is just as, you know, willing to get past as F1 2019 is willing to keep behind. So this could actually be quite a good fight. It's already, of what we've seen, it's been fairly decent. Just need it to carry on, because if it doesn't, in the nicest way possible, as far as entertainment factor goes, we're screwed. Because these are the only two people that are fighting. And I think the Mercedes is going to have a plenty good enough run into this corner. He is going to go for a bit of a late break dive bomb, and it isn't quite going to work through the corner. Can he get it on acceleration? No. Switchback possible, but I think F1 2019 has defended his corner of the ring pretty nicely there, and has held back the Mercedes just for now. But Cadet clearly showing intention and interest on getting past as soon as physically possible, as soon as the opportunity does indeed present itself. I've got to be honest with you, I quite like making a little dive bomb down into that hairpin. I know it's frowned upon, but it is quite satisfying when you pull it off. Especially when the other driver knows exactly what you're planning on doing and plans on going wide to try and get a good run down the straight. If you can just about get yourself enough in front that you can hook onto that right-hand side and defend it nicely, cracking move. Because you've got to get the overtake and then you've got to defend that next straight. JR Paul into the pit lane. Quickly check on what on earth he's deciding to do. He is swapping out the mediums for another set of mediums. Obviously, if you are a little bit confused by that, it is due to the fact that because we had wet weather, don't have to do the mandatory 2 sets of slicks. It's just, I don't really know the ruling behind it. I think I kind of do, because, you know, if you had a race of, say, 31 laps and 26 of them were under wet conditions, you know, you've used your inters, and technically you've used 2 sets of tyres, because if it changed to dries, then, you know, you've used your intermediates, now you're on your set of slicks. If you started on a set of slicks and heaven forbid you raced an entire race in the rain on a set of slicks, A, you'd be insane. But B, I'm not sure what the ruling is on that. If anybody does know the ruling on that, please do tell me. But if you were insane enough to race an entire wet race on one set of slick tyres, is that allowed? Because you're not running wet weather tyres. I don't know whether it's the tyres that causes that ban to be lifted or whether it's the weather. I just know when it's a wet race to dry race, you can just whack on, you know, if it's 20 laps remaining, you can just do 2 sets of softs, or you can just do 1 set of mediums or 1 set of hards. And you're more than welcome to do that. F1 2019 coming into the pit lane. And putting on, I imagine, will be another set of medium tyres. I was just about to say we were going to have a cracking fight between JR Paul and LX. But LX has opted to dive into the pit lane right at the moment that we were possibly going to see an overtake there. So unfortunately, nothing much to show for that. F1 2019 leaving the pit lane. He's thrown on a fresh set of medium tyres as expected, and so has LX. Exactly the same strategies from the both of them coming in at exactly the same time. So both of them know exactly. I've said exactly far too many times there. I do apologise. But both of them are well aware of the strategies that they should be making. Ooh, going slightly across the white line there, but I think he's gotten away with it. Yeah, he has. Didn't go all four over the white line, so it's not a penalty. You have to just be a bit careful over there, especially if you're heading over the curve. It's not ideal, but he's managed to keep himself reasonably neatly in the lines. Kresnos, I'm going to jump to him because we've got nearly 4/10 of a second between him and Mr. Cookie. Mr. Cookie really struggling on this dry stint. Was running fairly decently in the wet, but now the slicks have come on. I think we can safely say that Mr. Cookie is not particularly enjoying this dry weather in Singapore. Because he's about, or highly likelihood is, about to lose another place. I mean, don't get me wrong, he's got the penalty. So if it finished as it was, Kresnos would be ahead of him. But to lose another position on track, he obviously started P2. So it's 2 positions down, but obviously he did manage to get himself up into P1 right at the start of the race. And he does indeed, Kresnos gets through. And I think the Cookie, I mean, he ran very wide through that corner. I would not be surprised in the slightest if he did just let the red ball through. I mean, it's a brave decision to make to just say, oh, yeah, we'll let him through. But whether Mr. Cookie knows it's not really his fight to battle. And also, Mr. Cookie's, in his best interest, Kresnos is going to get past, right? He's well aware of the fact that Kresnos is going to get past. And with the 3-second time penalty, even if he did manage to keep him behind, he's only going to keep him behind by probably less than a second. He's losing the place anyway. You may as well let Kresnos go, save your tyres, and focus on keeping our Henson within larger than 3-second gap. At the moment, that gap is 14 seconds. It's not too much to worry about. He's got to lose 11. Whoa, Jay Thompson's... I was about to say Jay Thompson's gotten into the lead of the race. Orion's coming into the pit lane. But this definitely does make for an interesting strategy call. So the hard tyres coming in. I imagine that a softs. No, it is a set of mediums for Orion. So I don't really know. And serving a... Oh, no, he's off. He's off. I didn't think Orion didn't have a penalty. Yeah, no, it was just the game being a buggy mess as per usual. And Orion is coming out 5 here. And we'll just quickly check how many stops most people have done. Okay, so everybody P5 and onwards has done more than one stop. Our Henson, Mr. Cookie, Kresnos, and Jay Thompson still rocking the tyres that they were driving with when they pitted onto the slicks. Or was it about lap 7 or was it lap 9 or somewhere around that point? They pitted for a set of slick tyres when the rain finally stopped, and everybody has indeed stopped now except for those 4. Alex has just come across the line to set the fastest time so far today with a, I didn't actually read it, a 1:31.9. Okay, so you know what, right? That is surprisingly close to our pole times. Because what was it? 7, I think, if I remember correctly. So it's a good few seconds over. Don't get me wrong, it's still what, 4, nearly 5 seconds. That's not bad for race pace. Obviously, he has just put from fresh mediums, and he's got quite a lot of time and free space to try and do something like that. But nevertheless, Mr. J. Thompson having come into the pits, he's gone on to a set of red walled. He's gone for the softs. He's gone for that option. Orion right on the back of our Henson. Is he going to make the move into turn 1? Indeed he is. It's a lovely little dive bomb, and he's gotten himself up into 3rd place. And J. Thompson is going to come out behind these two, 4.5 seconds behind them, to say the very least. And Orion just exploding into the difference there. Not only has he just managed to pass with significant ease, he's just walked away from our Henson. Just didn't really matter to him particularly. He's got 13 seconds to crunch within 10 seconds of racing. Certainly plausible. And not only that, Kresnos and Mr. Cookie are likely to pit as well. I'd long way to go on. I think it's a set of mediums Cookies on. Kresnos is on a set of hards, so it's a bit more viable, but it is still a long run on hards, especially considering the fact that Orion has gained, what, 2 seconds within a lap. The AlphaTauri is on fire. It is so fast. But we're going to drop slightly towards the back of the grid now because we've got LX just chasing the back of Koski. He is just shy of half a second behind and looking fairly strong to make a move. He's just got to close that gap a little bit. You can't really have 6-7 tenths of a second and really be saying you're going for the move, especially not around a track like this. Mr. Cookie and Kresnos into the pit lane as Orion sets the fastest lap of 1:31.1. That is significantly faster than anything we have seen as of yet. Just sticking with the Haas here. Just want to see where these guys are going to come out. Are they going to come out into a fight? I'm not too sure. I think Mr. Cookie is. He's going to have JR Paul just behind him. About a second or so, that gap. And Patet right on the back of JR F1 2019 now. Within 0.3 of a second, this could possibly have a move being made ready for this DRS straight. If he just manages to close up a little bit down this straight, it is a bit of a gap, 0.4 of a second. Can I see him really making a move here? No. I think he can certainly put the pressure on. Maybe we might see a little error from F1 2019. Obviously, that's going to be his hope. But slight wiggle on the exit there, and I think that is going to just ruin Katet's chances of making a move this lap. It is a shame we don't really do. Sorry. English not happening today apparently. We do only really have one good overtaking opportunity, and that is the one that we were just looking at down that straight in sector 1 and into sector 2. That first DRS straight of the track. It's the longest, it's the one where you can gain the most momentum, it is the one that is most viable to make a move. As you can see, Katet can get close in that second DRS straight, but it's just not quite enough. Jay Thompson 130.7 and actually could possibly go for a move here. And who is going for a move is Katet, trying to go to the inside. Round goes the Aston Martin. I'm not too sure on that one. I'm going to be totally honest and say that I didn't see the contact. Oh, because the camera just cut right at the wrong moment. But I do think a little bit of contact was made there. So big call for the stewards. I am very glad I don't have a stewarding job, because I would not be the person. I'm not the right man for the job. Well, since that overtake has been made and Katet has kind of walked away from F1 a little bit, it's 1.5 seconds now between them. Jay Thompson obviously has just gone and set the fastest time, but on a set of softs, Orion's on a set of mediums. Jay Thompson can't catch now. He has no chance of catching at all. So he really does need to do it within sort of the next 2-3 laps. Chop down that 4.5 seconds. Because right now it's not happening. It is staying at 4.5 seconds, and Orion is looking in a really good place to win this race. Should probably check penalties as well, because it has shifted around a little bit. Not only people's penalties, but people's positions. Mr. Cookie and JR Paul on 3 seconds. Katet Katet on 6. F1 2019 behind on 3, so F1 2019 gets pushed forwards. Koski doesn't quite make it because he's just outside of that 3 seconds, only by half a second though. Mr. Cookie's just gone and put a fastest time in, or 1:30.1. Definitely shows Mr. Cookie's starting to get a little bit more pace. I think he likes those soft tyres a little bit, albeit we are on lap 24 and he is on fresh sets of soft tyres. You'd like to think he's putting in the fastest laps of the race, knowing that Mr. Cookie is in a fairly okay position to, you know, go for a solid result. Now, I was talking about LX trying to go for a move, but I think it's going to be our Henson that's going to go for the dive into turn 1. It's maybe slightly too late on the brakes, but he has managed to get the move done. I don't know whether he's going to let it through or not, or whether he does think that he's made that move in just and fair conditions. It is a bit of a... Yeah, I'm gonna be totally honest and say that I don't really know. The camera angles weren't that good. Would like to see the onboards of it though, because I don't know whether our Henson braked a little bit too late there and has forced LX wide, or yeah, or it could just be a racing incident, or it could be LX's fault. It genuinely could be either of those three options. So yeah, I'm not qualified to make a decision. I don't know how to steward Formula One races. I know how to referee football matches, but that's about it. Um, we've got some really big gaps in the midfield, don't we? JR Paul, Catet, and what's it, Mr. Cookie, all within sort of 10 seconds of each other individually. As our Henson there has just managed to get past Koski as well in the same lap. So our Henson is on a bit of a move out of hell. He is interested in flying, to be honest. He's on some serious jet fuel, that car, as far as I'm concerned. The Williams is soaring through the fighters that it does indeed encounter. Our Henson as well is within that 3 seconds of F1 2019 and within 6 seconds of Katetsu. Currently, our Henson's in 6th place. Not bad, if I may say so myself. Obviously, he's P8 on track, but he will be moving up to P6 if it stays like this for the rest of the remainder of this race, should I say. Proper English. We got a yellow flag in set 3. We got Blackbone stopped on track, and we have got a safety car, ladies and gentlemen. Where is Blackbone stopped? What has happened to him? I know exactly what's happened. Whoa, he's kind of going back the way he came. But in my opinion, the rear has stepped out there, and he's gone spinning like mad. We have a safety car. This, when I tell you this changes everything, I mean it changes everything. The entire race, take it, get its head, flip it, because that is exactly what has just happened. I was about to say, interestingly, Buell's decided to stay out. Of course, Buell's decided to stay out. He's an AI. Orion in, Jay Thompson in, Kresnos in, Mr. Cookie in, JR Paul not there yet, but rest assured he'll be coming in. And it's softs. It's all softs. JR Paul in. Honestly, you're mad to not come in right now in the nicest way possible. Catet in. F1 2019 out. Bold. Our Henson in. He's on 2 lap old softs, and our Henson's coming in. Koski in. LX in. Fuel is AI, so that doesn't really matter. F1 2019 has jumped 4 or 5 cars. He's probably going to lose that in the nicest way possible. I think a couple of the tire penalties as well might be taken off. No, they're all 3 seconds, and none of them are 5-second time penalties. 5 seconds you can knock off in the pit lane, and it's really good to do so under the safety car because you might lose a place or two. Sorry, no, you probably won't lose a place or two because you're not losing anywhere near as much time as you would normally. So Orion still, well, to be fair, everybody's still in the same place except for F1 2019. He's the only person that's moved around. What happened to Buell? Buell was AI from the start of the race. I don't really know. I think he might have had a disconnect. Because yeah, he's been like this the whole time, just sort of roaming around at the back, just enjoying life, to be honest. And yeah, his AI has been doing bits for him. You know, he's currently P11. We ignore the fact that there are only 11 drivers, but yeah. This is the big benefit of this, actually, is the fact that, you know how I was saying all of about 2 laps ago, oh yeah, there's like some people that are consistently, they've got 9 seconds of the car in front, they've got 9 seconds of the car behind. All of a sudden, that's 9/10. So fighting is well and truly back on the cars. Everybody knows what tyres it is now. So I just want to quickly check up on penalties again. Jay Thompson's picked up a 5-second tyre penalty. How's he managed that? I'm guessing he's made contact either with Orion or with Kresnos behind, and it's his fault. Because that, to me, says severe collision with driver. That 5-second time penalty for me. Either way, Mr. Cookie's on 3, so's F1, so's JR Paul, Catet's on 6, everybody else is penalty free. Orion's in a great position because he's got no penalties, he's the fastest car by far, fastest driver by far, and he's got somebody, there goes my bottle, with penalties behind him, so he hasn't got too much to stress about. Pit lane. Oh, pit lane entry. Oh no, speeding in the pit lane. Jay Thompson. Tut tut tut. I forgot. Yeah, speeding in the pit lane. Everyone's coming to pits, aren't they? That makes total sense. Who could we see big winners here? Henson could be a monumental winner here. He's currently P8, but he could find himself in P4 if he cuts through a couple of drivers and stays within 3 seconds of some others. So Henson could be a huge winner. Koski could be a big winner as well. So could LX. If they can keep up, if they can get past, even if it's 1 or 2 of the drivers with 3 seconds, so they can stay within reach of the other one. Because to be honest, if you leave like 7 tenths of a gap between each and every individual driver, Henson isn't going to be within 3 seconds of Mr. Cookie, just because naturally the cars do spread apart over time. Like 1 mile an hour. Oh no. Oh, you poor sod. And that could completely change the outcome of your race. To be fair, so long as you can get 2 seconds clear of Cookie, you're within a really good position. You know, okay, it's P3 rather than P2. Or the win, you know, you might have been able to nick the win off of Orion, but a podium's still a podium. It's not like you come in P8, you know. It's, you know, make light of this car advantage gone. Yeah, Henson, you had an ideal car advantage. That's a shame. But yeah, if you can make a couple of moves here and there, you could be in a great position. We're going for 1 more lap under the safety car, and then we'll get going. So we'll be on lap 3 laps. 3 laps of racing. That's it. Not going to be a lot at all. I mean, the AI is taking a really bloody long time. It was what, to be fair, right? It was 1 minute and 2 seconds. So he's done well to catch up. He's now down to 12.5 seconds, but he's bloody tearing through these hard tyres. They're going to be completely dead by the end of this race. But clearly he's happy to stay on them. Now, not really thinking about himself particularly much. I get why the AI is a bit nonchalant about tyre changes, because obviously if you reconnect and jump back in, you don't want to see that the AI has made a strategy call for you. That would be rather frustrating. But at the same time, you know, if you're not, that they are terrible. Sorry, I'm grabbing a drink. Drink acquired. As many of you may know, I am an absolute psychopath and I drink sparkling water. Most weirdest part of it, I'm not middle class. Right. We need to get ourselves ready to go, because this could be some properly chaotic 3 laps of racing. Orion is in a really good position to win this race. He's well aware of that. Blackbone's left the session. Blackbone's DNF, so that doesn't really matter. Blackbone was the one that caused this safety car. Yo, you right, Blackbone? And I think we could be in for one very special end to this race. Are we going to see some big winners? Are we going to see some monumental losers? We're going to have to find out in just a moment's time, because Orion is holding the pack up fairly long time. When's he going to get going? He's holding. He's not holding anymore. He's gone, and he's gone fairly well, actually. He's got on a pretty decent advantage on Jay Thompson just behind him, who's actually in turn got a very decent opportunity, a very decent hold on the car behind him. F1 2019 certainly didn't have that, because JL Paul has made a move into turn 1 and he's gained a place on his teammate. So that will indeed be a gained place for JL Paul, because F1 2019 does have the equal amount of penalties as all the drivers coming through now. We'll see how they get on. Catet putting a lot of pressure on F1 2019. Is he going to try and go for the move? He's going to have to try and go around the outside, but those soft tyres on the mediums of the F1 2019 could be a massive help is going to try and go for the move, make slight contacts with the car, and it is going to allow our Henson there to slip through and gain P7. So now our Henson's got an opportunity on F1 2019. He's an absolute sitting duck on those medium tyres, and this is exactly what I expected to see at the some point, and our Henson will have it within his best interest to get past this Aston Martin as soon as physically possible, and he's going to go for the dive move at the hairpin, and he's going to get it working. He's going to have to accelerate pretty quickly out of this corner if he wants to try and get the move completed by the time they hit the braking zone next time. No, they're going to go side by side. He's going to have to take the round the outside if he wants to try and make this track work, and I think the Mercedes is going to try and go down the inside. They're going to go 3 wide. Our Henson inside for the next corner. Mercedes is going to have a lot of work cut out for him if he wants to try and get past the Aston Martin, even more so if he wants to try and get past it. Oh, goes spinning around the Aston Martin. Then that's held up Cadet because he hasn't ghosted quickly enough. Everybody's ghosted, and it's all gone horribly wrong. Our Henson has gone... a lot of work cut out for him now. He's got to try and at least gain one more position. I reckon he can definitely do it. He's got 7 tenths to try and catch up to JR Paul. If so, he does gain that position, but he's probably not going to gain the position to Mr. Cookie because he's like 4 or 5 seconds up the road. Orion well and truly in the lead at the moment, 1.2 seconds, so well out of DRS range. Exactly the same for Jay Thompson and Kresnos, exactly the same for Kresnos no, what am I on about? Kresnos and Mr. Cookie, there's only half a second difference. Buell there, right at the back, unsurprisingly, going back to the back of the grid as F1 2019 gets himself just back into P10. After that, and oh, look what we have here. Cadet and LX going side by side. Cadet's going right around the outside. It's a bit of contact there made between LX and Cadet, but Cadet does just about manage to get himself up into P8. I don't think it's going to be much to talk about, though, because unless he can pull 6 seconds in the space of 2 laps, it's not going to be anything to write home about. I can tell you that much for free. Mr. Cookie currently 8 tenths behind Kresnos, but with that 3-second time penalty, I think is going to wash away any opportunities to get himself an extra place. I don't think a podium position is really on the cards for him. JR Paul, though, will be interested in seeing if Mr. Cookie can get past, because if Mr. Cookie gets caught up fighting with Kresnos, that's going to allow him to catch up and him to get involved in the fight, albeit we are now on the last lap of the race. It might be a bit late for anything to happen, but that's just kind of the way the dice rolls. We've had just a moment of madness there, and it's all just calmed down very quickly, and I just feel like I've hit a very sunken low all of a sudden. F1 2019, though, is still right on the back of LX. I'm surprised F1 2019 is keeping up with him, to be honest, because... excuse me. Those medium tyres should be completely finished by now in comparison to the Red Bull softs. Because what we talking about here? We're talking about 13-lap-old medium tyres going for a move on a set of 2-lap-old softs. And I think he's going to try and go for a dive. It's a very late breaker, and yet it's gone exactly the way I was expecting that to happen. Yeah, no, far too late on the brakes from F1 2019 there. That was never going to work. That was a very much just hope and pray and, you know, maybe it'll work. Yeah, no, that was never working. Everlex, I think, is probably going to hold on to the position from now. R. Henson unable to gain any time on JR Paul, and in fact, actually lost 2 seconds. Whether he's picked up a bit of wing damage, I'm not too sure. Maybe a bit of flaw. Because his wing is looking in pristine condition. But yeah, he's lost a lot of time there. And oh wow, we've already finished the race. I didn't realise Orion was that far across. Orion, ladies and gentlemen, has won today in Singapore, and he looks very happy about it in his car. Just that's an incredible gap already between Orion and LX. I didn't realise that he was anywhere near finishing the race at that point. But there we go. Orion is our winner today, and Kresnos secures P2 after that penalty was given to Jay Thompson, who takes home P3, and that is everybody across the line. So I was saying, you know, everyone was quite spread apart, but actually in the end, everyone came across the line fairly quickly. Jay Thompson picking up driver of the day there, so he must have gained the most places during the race. That is what that driver of the day means. It literally means nothing else other than who gained the most places. So if you start from the front and win for the front, you don't get driver of the day ever. Doesn't make much sense to me either, but it's an even metric. that they can measure every single time. Congratulations to all three drivers on the podium. They wholeheartedly deserve it, especially that AlphaTauri Orion has just dominated from start to finish. He can be very, very proud of that performance. So with that, we go back to the start of the race in that wet and gloomy weather. I don't really know why it does that, but oh well. Orion has won for the AlphaTauri after starting from the front, and he's picked up fastest lap as well and pole position. It was almost a Grand Slam, but he didn't quite lead every single lap of the race. Krasnos in P2 for the Red Bull, and Jay Thompson in P3 for the Alpine. Mr. Cookie P4 for McLaren, and J.R. Paul P5 for Aston Martin. Our Henson in P6 for the Williams, and Koski P7 for Alfa Romeo. Cadet P8 for Mercedes, and LX P9 for Haas. F1 2019 in P10 for the Aston Martin, and Buell in P11 for the Haas. Blackbone P12 for the AlphaTauri, and the Psycho in P13 for McLaren. And finally rounding us out, Ballant in P14 for Ferrari, with Blackbone, Psycho and Ballant having DNF'd from the race, and Buell being an AI the entire time. Wow, so that just about rounds out the race, and I've got to say, what a race it was. I've got not too shabby at all. I mean, I know Singapore can be a bit of a bore fest at times, but other times it brings out races like that, and you've just got to say, hats off to it. It can be an absolutely wonderful track, especially when you get a bit of weather involved, as we did today. So, other than that, I would like to thank everybody for coming and watching, especially everybody that actually talked in the chat. That's rare. That's really rare, but I wholeheartedly appreciate it because it often gives me something to waffle on about when stuff's boring, or just to actually see information about the race. Because you get drivers that DNF that come in and tell you. Blackbone told me what happened to him, and Joe Thompson told me why he got the penalty, etc. This kind of stuff that I really appreciate. So thank you all for joining me. I've been the Castristics. This has been Premier Racing League season. Oh dear, I don't know. Is it season 3 or season 2? Oh god, I am so season 4. Oh my god, round 7 at Singapore. Thank you and good night.